morning, everyone. Welcome to MPC Markets. Morning call for the 25th of July, 2025. Happy Friday, everyone. AI earnings drove stocks higher overnight. Fresh records, NASDAQ, S&P. While we had, after the bell closed, we had a very tense exchange between President Trump and Jerome Powell, one of the first presidents in many, many years to visit and inspect the construction that's going on at the federal buildings. That comes under their budget, but it's kind of what Trump's trying to trip Powell up on, and usual bully tactics. So it was quite embarrassing, really. He basically quoted a number that was much higher and was actually bringing in construction from a building that was finished 5 years ago. But yeah, if you want to have a quick look at this exchange, just have a look here now.
It looks like it's about 3.1 billion. Went up a little bit, or a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it just came out.
Yeah, I haven't heard that from anybody at the Fed.
It just came out.
I noticed that at about 3.1 as well.
3.1.
3.2.
This came from us.
Yes. I don't know who does that.
Are you including the Martin renovation? You just added.
Our entire capital.
Yeah, you just added in a third building. Is what that is. That's a third building.
Well,
including
no,
the
but
Martin building.
it's a building that's being built.
No, it was built 5 years ago. We finished Martin 5 years ago.
It's part of the overall work.
But it's
So,
not new.
So we're going to take a look.
Are there things the chairman can say to you today that would make you back off some of the earlier criticism?
Well, I'd love him to lower interest rates, but other than that, what can I tell you?
Moving on to markets, ASX was down a little bit yesterday. Nikkei, Hang Seng still, and China still sort of rallying overall. Nikkei still on the back of that trade deal being announced, and really not a lot of movement overall in the equity markets. Google went up overnight. There wasn't much on the earnings front. It really has been all about AI this earnings season, and Tesla disappointed yesterday, which I found very surprising. Elon was quite dour in social media as well. So I think we'll be certainly waiting for at least another quarter before and a few more announcements before we see the Tesla stock jump up. We were initially looking at buying for a trade. For those that did, we've just cut it very quickly. Ended up down about 8% or so overnight. But a quick loss is a good loss in these sorts of scenarios, because it could very well, with the removal of these subsidies for the EVs, you could see the stock continue to head lower. Around about 250, I think, is really key support, and we finished above 300 overnight. United Health as well. More woes for United Health. It revealed it was cooperating with the Department of Justice probe, and there's now criminal and civil investigations. Just a horrible, horrible year for what used to be the world's biggest healthcare company. ISRG was another one that we were looking at over the course of this earnings season in the healthcare sector, because it had been battered down. It essentially, again, not really finding any momentum to the upside. And IBM also took another hit after taking a smaller hit yesterday. I think it was down about 3.5% yesterday. It ended up down about 7.5% overall. ServiceNow had a little bit of momentum. That's one that's bounced back, one of our picks. But as you can see there, really Broadcom, NVIDIA, Microsoft, Google, Amazon doing all the heavy lifting, really. And I wouldn't imagine that there'll be too much movement leading into the weekend. There wasn't much movement in the commodities. Gold and silver are off a little bit, I think, on the back of the US dollar being slightly better bid, because there's more optimism on trade deals. Lithium continued to bounce. Shenzhen lithium futures were limit up 8% when we left, when the market shut yesterday here in Australia. Coal had a big bounce, 3%, nearly 3.5%. So those precious metals, copper was very stable, and but it's had a very good week. It's got so close to $6 a pound. I think it got within about 2 cents Silver's done the same, got within about 5 cents of $40. So those key levels at some stage will break, but it doesn't look like it at this stage that there's any catalyst for them to push through. Uranium also had it a little bit higher. One of my watch list stocks, Oklo, which does small modular reactors, did a deal with Liberty, which does natural gas, and they're looking at supplying those data centers in the immediate term with natural gas, and then shifting them over within their own ecosystem to the small modular reactors, which are about 4 to 5 years away. That stock's up like 25 to 30% in the last couple of days. And has enough cash runway to get to producing these small modular reactors, which fit in about a shipping container. However, that's a long way from revenue. So, it's just the nature of the US market being able to, really price in those forward earnings. So Intel was down. That was one of the only earnings from overnight, and Honeywell as well. Down 3.5 for Intel, down 6.5 for Honeywell. I think 67% of firms have exceeded revenue estimates, and 88% have surpassed earnings per share projections. So that's a little bit weaker than normal. Normally, both of those numbers are above 80%. But it's only really the second week of earnings. Next week, we've got some fairly big names. We've got in the payment space, Visa, Procter & Gamble in the healthcare space. We've got 3 of the Mag 7. That will just really leave NVIDIA in the end. Microsoft and Meta on Wednesday, Apple on Thursday. I can't imagine Apple's going to have, they haven't released a new product in a decade, so and they're very behind in the AI race. I can't imagine there's going to be overly great earnings for them. They're more of a defensive Mag 7 play now because they're sitting on so much cash, but I certainly wouldn't classify them as a growth play. Spotify as well is on Tuesday. That should be pretty interesting. Those subscription services have done very well over the course of the last month. Out of Europe, you've got AstraZeneca and Merck on Tuesday, UBS on Wednesday, Ferrari Thursday. So really, apart from those 3 major ones, Wednesday, Thursday, you've got, and the oil companies on Friday, and a lot of it gets busier. However, but it really a lot smaller companies, I think, overall. So, but a hell of a lot more volume in terms of how many companies are reporting. We got inflation numbers here in Australia on Wednesday, and the Bank of Canada meeting is Wednesday night. Advanced GDP, which is the important GDP. They do release it every month, but 2 of them are just a revision of the previous, so it's the quarterly. This is the volatile one. FOMC meeting, Bank of Japan meeting on Thursday, and FOMC will be Thursday morning, so Wednesday night. And core PCE, which is the Fed's favoured inflation. And then the very, very important for the first day of the month, US employment numbers. Just bewildering how we have seen so many announced job cuts, and the and the increase in initial jobless claims, etc., but it hasn't played out through those numbers. But which is is a government department, I suppose, and they've got a lot less people there now doing it. So maybe it's something to do with the sample sizes, etc. I'm not sure, but there is a very very murky waters in terms of the economic numbers at the moment, and but yeah, we may see a bit of a wild, a wild number, or we haven't had a negative number since December 2020. So that's always one we need to be watching out for overall. Australian market today, we had iron ore drift off. I dare say the lithium stocks will probably be in favour again, as will the uranium stocks. There's still a lot of shorts out there in the uranium sector, the lithium sector, and one of the healthcare names, Clarity Pharmaceuticals, which has rallied nearly 200% since they started really whacking on those shorts. So there could be some movement in some of those names overall, but I don't expect too much. We'll probably see. It'll be all eyes on China for the materials sector. There was nothing really of major note to be pushing this market either way. So I would expect us to be maybe down 0.5% to. We might finish the week. If the funds sort of start coming in and buying some of the material sector and buying up a few of the banks potentially into the Friday close, we could probably eke out a small gain, which I think we deserve, because I think despite the fact that Fortescue and BHP have both knocked it out of the park, iron ore prices have gone through the roof, copper prices have gone through the roof, that material sector is just still massively undervalued, and it's a big part of our market. And I think we saw Fortescue had rally about 4% yesterday, and producing that stuff and at somewhere around the $18 mark and selling it for 80 odd is they're always pretty good margins, so there should be some pretty good dividends from them. And we will start earnings in Australia next month, which starts next Friday. So we'll start to. The podcast might be a little bit more delayed. We'll try to get some of the earnings results in before the open for you. But have a good day. Have a great weekend. For those of you who like the podcast, we've got Bulls versus Bears, myself and Jonathan Takadina this afternoon. That'll be out around about 7 o'clock tonight. And you sort of get a bit of a wrap-up of the week and see what we're thinking. But, yeah, have a safe weekend, and we will speak again Monday. General advice warning. The content presented in this presentation is intended for informational purposes only and provides general advice only. It does not take into account your personal objectives, financial situation, or specific needs. This information should not be the sole resource when making investment decisions. We strongly recommend you seek the advice of a financial professional.